Hello, my name is Chuck Mower. I'm a member of the 275th Celebratory Committee recognizing 275 years in the town of Merrimack. This is my colleague, John Listoka. As a matter of fact, I met John because of the committee, and we found that we had many interests in common in trying to advance the interests of the town of Merrimack. And I'm pleased to say that the committee, through all of its work, managed to really find a great project to commemorate 275 years. I don't know if you've heard about it yet or not, but this is intended to introduce you to the wonders that we hope we'll be able to undertake with this particular project. We wanted to do something to remember the event. Just as the previous celebration recognized the Abbey Griffin bandstand. So we came up with this idea of having a covered bridge. Now, a covered bridge would do a lot of things. The town once had two covered bridges, one at Turkey Hill and one at Severance, over in the southwest part of the community. Unfortunately, they were burnt down way back in the late 60s. And of course, the town has changed a lot, and we can't put up covered bridges anymore. It just doesn't meet our modern-day transportation needs. So we thought, well, we could build an authentic covered bridge at Twin Bridge Park, right in the middle of Merrimack. There are about 27 acres in the park itself, and only about 4 acres are occupied by the MYA. So there are 2 little bridges down there. One was replaced about 15 years ago, and the other was built in the 1930s and was in need of replacement and repair coming up soon enough. So we said, well, let's build a covered bridge, and it will take care of needing the new bridge. It will preserve the historic bridge and abutments that are there. It will provide a pavilion so that people who are now invited into the park to enjoy it can take shelter. Or we have the possibility of renting it out for various events, weddings, picnics, corporate parties, almost more things than you can possibly imagine. In order to facilitate that, however, we would have to have a little sidewalk on the edge of our bridge, so that if you were having a wedding on the bridge and you wanted it to be private, well, then the public could still walk along the sidewalk. And of course, the sidewalk would present a really nice opportunity to photograph the cascade that is there. Babusick Brook drops about 80 feet in 800, and it is really quite a geologic wonder. You would think, if you were down there, that you were in the middle of the White Mountains, not certainly in the middle of Merrimack. And we began to enumerate the other benefits that would accrue from doing such a thing. Well, if you had a wedding on the bridge, people would come from out of town. They would have to stay in our hotels. They would eat in our restaurants. They would learn about our community and find out all the various things that we have to offer in the area. Perhaps they would hire a caterer that was local. Perhaps they'd hire musicians that were local. All of these spin-off economic benefits are real and associated with this kind of an improvement. Again, this bridge will open up and invite the public for a multi-recreational use of Twin Bridge Park that doesn't exist right now. 27 acres of pristine land right in the middle of our community. So we think that the benefits of doing this are almost too numerous to particularize. We know that people come from all over the world to New England to look at covered bridges. One of the favorite things I like to do is get my wife and take a tour up in the North Country and over into Vermont and look at covered bridges. It would be economically beneficial to us if we had an authentic covered bridge right here in Merrimack, so that when people came to see a covered bridge, they would come to Merrimack first, and they would enjoy Merrimack. They would spend their money in Merrimack. They might even decide they want to move here to Merrimack. We haven't undertaken that kind of a stimulus project in a number of years. And so we went to the Town Center Committee, and we presented them with the idea, and they were very excited about it. And in fact, several of the people on the committee testified to their love of covered bridges and how nice it would be to have one in Merrimack. But more importantly, it was consistent with the town center development plan that is underway, connecting our river walks, our greenways, our parks, and so forth for people to enjoy. So it's an ongoing, developing master plan for recreation. It's pretty exciting in that regard. So after having an affirmative reaction from the Town Center Committee, we made a presentation to the Town Council. And the Town Council also was very excited about it, and they endorsed the project and allowed us as a committee, the 275th Planning Committee, to undertake it in the name of the town of Merrimack. All we have to do is raise enough money to actually build this. Now, when we're sitting at our kitchen table, $500,000 sounds like an awful lot of money. And in fact, it is. But in terms of the benefits that would accrue to a municipal corporation like Merrimack, it's not that much money. We spend a lot more money all the time on repairing infrastructure and so forth. So on a municipal level, it's a very reasonable cost for something that we anticipate will give us such a good return on our investment. And of course, we want to do it largely by donations. And so we're asking people to go to our website, Merrimack275th.com, where you can see more material about the bridge and some photos and so forth. You might get a better understanding of exactly what we're up to. And of course, we're going to be refreshing that website as we move along in our fundraising efforts. It has been very well received up to date, and we hope to really get underway this year. Last year, of course, everyone suffered from COVID fatigue and all of the difficulties that the new normal was causing us. So this year, we're really pushing and getting underway, and we'll be finding as many people as we can, as many children as we can, as many organizations as we can, as many businesses as we can, because this is a community project. Everyone should be a stakeholder in this. I want some little kid to come along in my donation box and give me $1, 50 cents. I don't care. I want that child in 10 years to walk on this bridge and say, I remember when they were looking for donations and I gave money for this. They're taking ownership of their community. They're developing a sense of place. and that is true for the rest of us. We, who have been here for some time, really do have a sense of place. This community has so much to offer. That's why so many people are here. The geology of this community is attractive. The geographic location of the community is attractive. The economy of the community is attractive. And all of those things can be realized and developed through a project such as this one. I know I'm probably a little bit selfish. I would really love to have an opening dance on the bridge where my wife and I could dance and have a kiss right on the covered bridge, because that's what we used to call covered bridges. They were kissing bridges. And I fondly remember the two that we had here in Merrimack. John, I know you had one right over by your house. You must remember Severn's Bridge pretty well. Can you tell us anything about it?
Well, I know Severn's Bridge really well, Chuck. In fact, when I was in my early teens, I actually carved a heart with my initials and my sweetheart's initials.
Oh, you vandal, you.
I did it. I fessed up. Yeah, it's true. It's a special bridge, and we used to fish off it, swim off it. It was a very special part of our history.
And so I'm sure that you agree with me that having something like this once again in our community to focus our sense of place, our peace of mind, our recreational opportunities is probably one of the most exciting things that has been undertaken in some time.
Well, chuck, I have to tell you that when you first brought this up on the committee, I lifted an eyebrow. $500,000 is a lot of money. And I'm going, oh boy. But the more we talked about it as a committee and the more enthusiasm that was brought up and felt, even through the town council and Senate committee, it was a good idea. And I must tell you, I was never at Twin Bridges. And that was quite a sight for me to go down and go to Twin Bridges for the first time in my life. And I've lived here for a long time.
Well, oddly enough, John, I was excited to show you my old neighborhood, if you will, where I grew up and all the wonderful things that are down there. And something that you grew up with right next to your property was an old grist mill. And I was real happy to show you that the town actually owns an archaeological site at Twin Bridges where there is an old grist mill, a big old stone dam and a sluiceway and so forth. And that really excited John. So when we were talking about putting up the bridge, we said, well, what should we call the bridge? And I said, well, you know, we should use the bridge to invite people to explore the additional acreage that is here and see all the things that history has shown us here. And so we decided we would call it the Grist Mill Bridge. And we can well imagine that people did, in fact, have to go over this bridge to get to the old coal grist mill. And so much more historically down there. Where we intend to put this bridge was, in fact, the first road in the town of Merrimack. It was laid out in 1733 and constructed in 1738. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, that's more than 275 years ago. Well, yes, it is. Well, Merrimack has a very rich history. And we have a second act of incorporation 5 years after the first one, because the petitioners that asked the king for land to make a town, well, they felt a little cheated, and they said that what they got was mean and ordinary. So they petitioned the royal governor again and said, give us more. And he decided that he would. So he carved off part of Amherst and gave it to the town of Merrimack. And he carved off part of Souhegan East, which is now the town of Bedford, and gave that to Merrimack. And so this is a very, very early settled part that wound up being in the overall community of Merrimack. And this is the first road through the town of Merrimack. And the abutments are the original stone abutments from 1738. That's quite a historic site. Pretty interesting to go and see what our predecessors did that's still standing today. In 1751, General Stark was asked to muster his militia and march on Crown Point over in Vermont. And so the men from Merrimack marched over that little bridge and down to the King's Highway and out the King's Highway, and in 2 days managed to get over to Fort Number 4, where they resupplied. And then they went to Vermont and they cut the first road in Vermont called the Crown Point Road, which is well marked today and legendary in the minds of Vermonters, that it was the first road in military support of Crown Point, made by the fellows right here in Merrimack who marched across that little bridge. So much has happened here, and so much is happening here. This is a chance for a project to really celebrate who we are and invite people to come and enjoy who we are today. The bridge itself, this is a scale model, is going to be 60 feet long and 12 feet wide on the interior. So there's an ample opportunity for any number of events and any number of people that want to join on the bridge at any given time. Now, we lament that we had lost bridges to fire, and it's still the concern of people in many small communities where their resources are somewhat sparse. They don't want to lose their bridges. We intend to have power brought to the bridge so that we can have monitoring systems, smoke alarms, other high-tech alarms and clarions and so forth that will keep our bridge safe, and that will provide power so that we can have the kinds of contemporary meetings and parties and so forth that we intend to on the bridge. The bridge itself is going to be constructed by the #1 bridge builder in the country, Arnold Grayton. He is the 3rd generation bridge building family here in New Hampshire. He's from up in Ashland. Many of you might be familiar with him. Arnold's getting on in time, and this may well be the last project he undertakes. And I sincerely hope that we can get the imprimatur of Arnold Grayton on the construction of this bridge. It's going to be wholly authentic in every way. And in 50 years, we will be able to put it on the National Historic Register. It's going to be quite a project. Well, John, we talked about the need to fireproof the new bridge. Can you tell us about the old bridge?
I can. I was a young man at the time, and when I heard about the fire, it was really, truly devastating. First it was one bridge, and a few weeks later it was the second one, and it was it was a lot of grief in our family and actually in the whole town. And I think one of the things that's important about the building of this bridge, when we talked to Arthur Grayton, is that he was telling us about the fireproofing of this very special lumber he's going to get for this bridge. Why don't you tell them about it, Chuck?
50 years ago, or certainly 200 years ago, you could have just gone out and cut down some trees and milled them up and got a bunch of guys down there. Well, that's not the world we live in anymore. Everything is regulated today. It's one of the reasons that the bridge costs what it costs. So we have to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers, we have to deal with state and federal transportation standards, and also fireproofing the bridge. Arnold Grayton uses a special graded wood from a company in Connecticut that is fireproofed, and they principally sell to companies making towers. So it is a graded and fireproofed product that he'll be using to construct the bridge. And on top of being fireproofed, of course, we will have monitoring devices and so forth. So we're ensuring the preservation of our investment and meeting public safety needs as well. Don't want anybody to be hurt on the bridge through some accident. Somebody tips over something, the fire starts or something. We want to be able to contain it, control it, and so forth. So we'll be utilizing all the modern technology that we can, including fireproofing all of the timbers and so forth, to make sure that this bridge will last another 200 years, because Arnold Grayton told us it will last 200 years and then some, as long as we take care of it. So that's what we intend to do. Now, the benefits of this project are almost too numerous to particularize. I'm sure there are many people who have ideas and so forth. That the committee and people like John and myself have yet to realize or hear. So we're certainly listening. We want this to be a satisfactory project that meets all the needs of the town of Merrimack. Bearing in mind, it is an official project of the town of Merrimack, sanctioned by the town council and the town center committee. Now, $500,000 sounds like an awful lot of money, except if we got 500 people to give us $1,000, then it doesn't sound like so much money. And we've already had a number of people who have pledged $1,000 to this project, and it's growing. And of course, we've only just begun to ask for the community support that's necessary. On the other hand, we have, by anybody's guess, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 people in Merrimack. So if 30,000 people in Merrimack gave us a Starbucks coffee, we could build this bridge. So this is doable. It's very doable. It's just a question of whether or not people in the community wish to continue to see asphalt and acceleration, or whether they want to put some money into doing something that the adults can enjoy in the community, that the businesses can enjoy in the community, that the service organizations can point to with pride and occupy. This is just, in my mind, just too good a project not to fully support. And I'm on board. The committee is on board. We have, I guess, somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 members of the committee. And they are prominent people in the community that I'm sure you may well be familiar with. So we're asking you to participate. We want you to donate. We want you to volunteer. We want you to help us in any way that you can afford to, and build this bridge. I don't know what more I could say about it, except we can't wait. We're building a bridge to the future. The town of Merrimack has a wonderful future. And projects like this can only dramatically improve our quality of life. Come and volunteer. Get a hold of us. Go to merrimack275th.com. Donate, please. Thank you very much.